aboard your favorite weekly vessel, licensed to transport you across boundaries and beyond borders. Make sure your African passport is on hand. I am your captain and host, Godfrey Mr. G. Madanhire, on Radio 54 African Panorama. Let us get your passport stamped.
I say to restore your identity. Africa, 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 Africa. I say to restore...
Greetings, sons and daughters of Mother Africa. This is the African Passport, your stage to parade exceptional African talent. I am your host, His Excellence Ambassador Godfrey Madanhire. Joining us today is Dr. Joybert, a distinguished business strategist, productivity expert, and global thought leader. With over a decade of experience, Dr. Joybert has empowered professionals, entrepreneurs, and corporate entities across multiple continents. As CEO of Cosdev Group Limited and founder of CELBMD Africa, his impact on leadership, entrepreneurship, and digital transformation is unparalleled. He is a recipient of numerous international awards and is being featured on major media platforms worldwide. And today, we are hosting him here on Radio 54 African Panorama. We are honored to have him here, share his insights on success, strategy, and innovation. Welcome to the show, Dr. Javnyoy.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. It's so good to be here on the show, and of course to share with Mother Africa the best continent so far in the world. So thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to a great time with you.
Absolutely. I know you are currently in Texas in USA, but you're originally from Cameroon.
Yes.
And
yes.
Cameroon, when you talk about Cameroon, because obviously most media platforms, except Radio 54 African Panorama, of course, they peddle negative issues happening around the continent. And most of the time when you talk about Cameroon, what comes to mind is the conflict, the usual conflict between the Anglophone Cameroon and the Francophone Cameroon. Mm-hmm. As a strategist, how can we help resolve such conflicts?
That's a very complex question to answer, looking at the situation that we have faced. And the situation definitely got more public in recent years. But before that, since I was born, growing up, I used to hear stories about the issues between the Anglophone and the Francophone. But in recent years, it became more different due to the advent of social media. So it skyrocketed more and became more powerful and much more influential because there were more voices. Resolving the issue, we all need to come back to the table in terms of focusing on the people, focusing on where we are as a nation and where we can go, move forward. And whether who is leading the different fractions and the different heads, whether it's the government, the president, or the separatist fighters, and so on. If the two parties don't care about the people, I don't see any headway in resolving the conflict. If we have more people with selfish interest and, of course, a more desire to be in power, if you may put it that way, it will be difficult. But if our people can become true leaders, because leadership is about considering other people first before yourself, looking at how can I serve people better and contribute to the transformation of the people and the nation. And if we cannot come to that level of agreement and that common ground as leaders from different areas and different fractions, we will keep fighting as a people, and unfortunately, we keep killing ourselves. So at some point, it is the short-sightedness of leadership and the focus on personal interest and what people can gain.
I want to agree with you. And I'm sure your solution of wanting leaders to come together, talk to each other and find a solution can be exported even to other conflicts. We are talking about what's happening in DRC right now. And I'm sure all they need to do is to come together around a table and discuss, find a solution.
Definitely.
And put their people first.
Yeah. It has always been our challenge in Africa, that, I don't know if I should say cultural way of growing up, where people find it difficult to put people first when they get into power. right? Power gets to consume people a lot. Greed gets to consume people a lot. Materialism gets to consume people a lot. I wrote an article a few days ago, and I spoke about the defeated kings. And I was talking about the appetites that defeat kings. When you study from the previous centuries, like in the last 500 years, you will notice that there were so many great leaders and great kings, but yet many of them ended up being defeated in their lifetime, and they did not end up being great leaders because they could not tame their appetite. It could be appetite for sex, appetite for alcohol, appetite for greed and power. And that's the challenge with the African leaders. There's so much up, they cannot tame their appetite for greed, for power, for influence. It gets to consume them. So very few of them get to put the people first. They get to put their pockets first. And that's why, unfortunately, that's not real power. Because real power is when you can comfortably give power and still be powerful, right? And that's a challenge with our African people. So when we get to the place where we start getting leaders that put Africa first, puts the people first, we will start having a continent that can rise and be what it should be.
For those who are just joining us, I am in conversation with Dr. Jafnyoy Joybert from Cameroon. Radio 54 African Panorama.
Ouvir que me queres, sentir que ainda me queres, e não foi desta que acabou. Todos falam de ti, de como fui bobo, te perdi por tão pouco. Já nem sei mais como tu estás, tudo se foi, saudades, saudades, saudades. Tu sabes que eu te amo, não há espaço para mais ninguém. Eu não agi certo, não agi, mas preciso de ti. Preciso ouvir que me queres, sentir que ainda me queres, e não é desta que acabou. Todos falam de ti. Ué. Já nem sei mais como tu estás, tudo se foi, saudades, saudades, saudades. Onde tu estás? Que me ouças de novo, que me abraças de novo, só mais uma vez. Nem sei mais como tu estás, tudo se foi, saudades, saudades, saudades. Onde tu estás? Preciso de ti. Onde tu fores? como é que eu fico. É tão chato ouvir que tu não me queres, que já não me amas, que tu já não vais voltar. É tão chato ouvir que tu não me queres, que já não me amas. Diz como é que eu fico.
The African Passport, inspired by Agenda 2063. For those who are just joining us, I am in conversation with Dr. Javnoy Joybert from Cameroon. Dr. Javnoy,
Yes, sir.
you spoke about African leaders, and you mentioned issues like greed, corruption as their setbacks. And a lot of people argue that the problem that we have in Africa is not about a lack of resources or poverty and all these other issues, but it is a problem of leadership. How can we help empower African business leaders reach their maximum potential?
You know, due to my work, I've had the privilege to travel across the continent to do a lot of work with business leaders from South Africa to Nairobi, Kenya, to Lagos, Nigeria, you know, to different nations. And we have incredible people. We have very, very resilient people. I have had the privilege to go to other continents, right? Middle East, Europe, North America. And when I look at the business environment that they have and what we have back in Africa, especially in Central Africa, West Africa, is tougher in these areas. Southern Africa is much better, although it's not the best the way it should be. North Africa is good, not the way it should be, but it's good, better than Central Africa and West Africa. And our people are very hardworking, very creative, very pushing, very resilient. And we do our best to provide them strategies, tactics to build and to establish thriving institutions. But they always met a big headway, which is the environment. Like I always fondly say that when I speak to government leaders, I always tell them, look, there is, as far as the government is concerned, we as entrepreneurs, we don't need money from the government. Give us the enabling environment and we will make the money, right? And that's why China is where it is today. That's why not the United States, Canada, name it, where they are today. Look at what is happening in Rwanda, right? They're trying to do their best to create an environment. And when you begin to empower leaders, you see the results of what leaders can do. Because when you're trying to build a business and corruption is breathing down your neck, embezzlement is breathing down your neck, high taxes or very, very corrupt, heavily corrupt tax officers are breathing down your neck, it becomes difficult to build and establish a thriving institution. But at the same time, as entrepreneurs in Africa, I always say that if you are building a business in Africa, you need to be what I call a good chief figuring officer. You must learn how to figure your way out and keep building that business, because the environment is so harsh that if you don't make up your mind, like I always tell people, to build a business in Africa, make up your mind in advance. No matter what happens, I will not give up. Everything is permitted to happen, but this business, I will keep building it. You see, so we keep on, we'll keep training our people, providing the right strategies, the right knowledge, contextualizing ideas into our environment and tapping into our culture, refining it, and using those ideas to build great businesses. And at the same time, we should keep on lobbying and advocating for a better business environment for that to happen, because the two must go together. But at the same time, as business people, let us keep doing our part to grow, to expand, and of course, to multiply.
I'm sure those who are listening to us from Mali, from Malawi, Mozambique, Eswatini, Senegal, they agree with me that indeed, Mr. Javnoy is Mr. Remarkable. Dr. Javnoy, you spoke about an enabling environment. And we know there is this intervention of the AI It is
Yeah.
now a reality in our everyday lives,
Mhm.
education systems, as well as how we do business, including the workplace. Of course, some people are skeptical. I know in the education system, some people think it's going to help students look for shortcuts. But we also know there are other platforms like Turnitin that pick up things like this. Should we embrace AI and why?
You see, what is happening with AI right now is almost the same thing that used to happen when the computer came. You see, when the computer came in Africa, many people were afraid to learn the computer. And the computer at the time was an inevitable force. And everybody, you had a choice. Either you align with it or you don't, and you get kicked out of the market or you get replaced. You see, people who were sticking to typewriters and did not learn how to use computers were replaced by people who knew how to use computers. The same thing is about to still happen with AI. AI is an inevitable force. It is coming and it will keep coming. And AI will not replace jobs by itself. No, the people who know how to use AI very well will replace people who don't know how to use AI. So schools cannot fight it, systems cannot fight it, because as long as people can access it on their phones and their laptops directly, it has already been decentralized. And that is the power of this generation. So any school in Africa, instead of fighting AI, they should be designing curriculum to enhance artificial intelligence. If people are using AI to create shortcuts, that is good. We need to produce value faster and sell it faster, right? So instead of arguing or saying that students are going to use it for shortcuts, the question should be, how do we teach the students to use AI and partner with this AI with their human intelligence? AI depends on data. Humans have the emotions, the creativity. Humans have, they know what they want, you see. So AI it should be greeted with a lot of curiosity, a lot of acceptance, and asking the question, how can AI help me to create value faster and to monetize that value faster? So for those who run schools, from high school, secondary school, universities especially, stop fighting AI, create curriculum to accommodate AI. There should be a course right now under agriculture. There should be a 101 course, AI and agriculture, under journalism, AI and journalism, under finance, AI and finance. Begin to lay the groundwork. If not, we will keep having younger people from the Middle East, Asia, Australia, North America, Europe, building things and creating more impact faster than the African continent young people, because our people keep on drawing us backward instead of contributing to our advancement. AI is going to disrupt. In short, it has already disrupted. If you are not using AI right now in any way intentionally, you are literally 5 years behind. So you need to begin to find a way out. How is AI affecting my industry? If you are in the university right now, begin to ask yourself, before I graduate, how will AI must have disrupted my industry, and what do I need to start learning in order to be ahead of the curve? So don't fight it, accommodate it, learn it, unlearn, relearn, adapt, and build. That is the way forward.
Africa, you heard it from a master when it comes to digitalization. We need to embrace AI. I know at the top of the show, I said you are talking to us coming all the way from USA, where obviously you are there on business engagements.
Yes, sir.
The relations between Africa and the USA has shifted under the Trump administration. We recently witnessed a circus when it comes to diplomacy.
Yeah.
That is when President Ramaphosa from South Africa visited the White House.
Yeah.
What is your advice to African leaders when they find themselves in such situations?
Well, I have always been of the school of thought that many African leaders still go to the international scene as beggars, not as leaders, not as kings in their own right, not as presidents from sovereign nations. And It's a mindset issue, right? And the more we keep on going to the international scene and seeing other leaders as, being superior to you, we'll keep on having issues like that. And Africa is a great continent with great countries. And if we don't have that absolute understanding and belief, and begin to also understand what we have as a people that the world depends upon, and begin to drive the conversation the right way, and things like that will continue to happen. And again, it comes back to what I said earlier on, because the more we have leaders who are pocket driven, who are materialistic, they have not grown, they have not matured enough to look at life beyond material things, to begin to focus on legacy and transformation and impact the way it should be. That will keep on happening. However, as the world keeps on going closer and closer as far as globalization is concerned, Africa and her nations must learn how to collaborate and yet still be firm as independent nations. They must learn how to collaborate as people who have a lot to bring to the table, not as beggars who depend or must keep on begging from the Western nations, right? That is very, very important. And there's a rise in Africa across citizens and people thinking that, hey, I think we can be better than this. And more citizens are calling their leaders, to be more responsible and to step up and be true leaders and represent them as a people in a proper way. And no matter what happens, a nation that masters how to collaborate effectively and yet still honor and respect their individuality will always be a powerful, growing nation, but not a nation that is constantly, like a puppet under other nations. So Africa needs to step up in that light and begin to play the game as true leaders and true nations, and not just as people who, depend on aid and are beggars. And when our leaders do that, a lot will begin to shift in terms of what we can contribute and deliver to the global scale as a people.
Africa need to remember that we are a sovereign continent, and that should never be compromised.
Absolutely.
You are listening to the African Passport.
The African Passport Show. For those who are just tuning in, we are here on the African Passport on Radio 54 African Panorama, and we are talking to a Cameroonian superstar, the joy of Africa, the pride of Africa, Dr. Joybert Javnyoy. You are an alumni of the Obama Foundation, Nelson Mandela Washington Fellow, Tony Elumelo, etc. These are big institutions.
Yeah.
What does your association with such great institutions mean to you as an individual and to us as a continent?
I think that those are great ideas and different organizations established in partnership with Africa, some by Africans, like especially the Tony Elumelo program. Very powerful program organized and created by the son of Africa himself, one of the finest that we have. If we could have more of them, Africa will be 10 times ahead than where it is, right? So these are programs that provided the platform for the development of many young Africans like myself in different phases of the journey, because it is one thing to be talented, it's one thing to be gifted, it's one thing to know what you want to do in life with your life and for Africa, but it is another thing to have the skills, the resources to achieve those things. And programs like that create that platform for collaboration, platform for equipping, platforms for you to access resources for those who are providing resources. And these programs created those platforms. I think that one of the best things that these programs gave me was, the ability to meet and collaborate and work with other amazing, young African leaders across different continents and do incredible work, with them. I had the privilege to be in Africa, to be in South Africa, where you guys are headquartered, I think. And it was due to one of these programs. And it was very, very helpful for me to understand a lot of things about Southern Africa itself, and of course, working with other young people, young leaders from different countries across Africa. And again, we need more of these programs. It is so unfortunate that as programs like the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, it was created by a foreign country for Africa. And how can our people step up, with the example of Tony Elumelo to begin to create similar programs to empower more young people? Because you see, in a continent like Africa, talent is equally distributed, but opportunities are not. Every young person, like there are maybe thousands of them right now, maybe millions listening to this program right now. There are so many talented young people across the African continent, from villages to towns, semi-urban areas, go everywhere. I have been to villages and towns and cities across Africa. You see mind-blowing, boggling, talented young people. But guess what? Opportunities are not equally distributed. You can be talented in Africa and grow old, and nothing is done with that talent because you never had the opportunity to do that. And we need more programs like this, not by foreign nations and foreign organizations, but by local organizations, to create more opportunities and more platforms so that every talented, skillful young African can have access to an opportunity, to a platform that can enable their advancement in destiny and purpose. Why is this important? Because mountains, natural resources don't make a nation. It is people that make a nation. If we don't have the people that can convert these resources into value that the world can begin to consume, we will keep being the most heavily blessed continent with the right resources, but yet very poor. Because it is not the resources that make a continent or a nation, it is the skillful people who have access to opportunities that changes a nation. So these programs were good, but we need to go deeper. And that's why, you see, I created the Center for Entrepreneurship, Leadership, and Business Management Development. The goal was to, we have trained, more than 30,000 young Africans across 28 African countries. And the goal is in this area. How do we help more young Africans to become more employable? We have a powerful program on the employability skills of young Africans, because the more employable you are, the more you can get a job or be able to start a job with the right skills and begin to position yourself for the right opportunities. We have enterprise development skills, because our belief in the center is that if we meet a young African running a business alone, if we empower you the right way, in 12 months, you can recruit one additional young African, and that will reduce unemployment by one person. And we have seen incredible impact of young people being able to access opportunities, access funding, get better jobs, get international internships through the different programs that we have organized and, of course, delivered across more than 28 African countries. So those institutions were great because they contributed to thousands of young people to gain access to opportunities. And we need more of those institutions, but they should be driven by Africans and for Africans themselves.
You mentioned Tony Elumelu as one great institution that contributed towards the person that you are today. And I cannot agree more with you. I know our African people and how much they respect this institution. I remember it should be a year or two ago, there was, I think their systems were hacked, and almost a lot of people received an email saying, congratulations, you have been appointed a mentor to work with Tony Elumelu. I also received that email, and a lot of people were excited. That just shows how much they would want to be associated with such an institution.
Absolutely.
You are a global thought leader recognized by Thinkers 360, which is the largest and premier marketplace for thought leaders and influencers based in Dallas, Texas. What is the role of thought leaders as we work towards building a prosperous Africa?
You see, there's a popular saying that the world is ruled by dead people, right? We are currently doing so many things. For example, probably the person who started the radio station is dead, right? And the radio stations are still functioning today, years and years and years after, because of an idea that somebody created, years ago, hundreds of years ago. And that's the power of thought leadership. The more we have people that can think and create from diverse industries, the more a nation can be prosperous, because it is ideas that are converted into institutions. It is ideas that are converted into what can impact people. We are on this program right now, and this program is inspiring people, transforming lives, because an idea was conceived and converted into a platform, a system that can now be executed for others to partake of the value of that idea. So the more we have people that can put their brains to work, one of the best things that God gave every human being was their brain. But the more we can go a step further and put these brains to work, to begin to think things through and create value, package that value, distribute that value so it can change lives, the more the nation will be prosperous. You see, for example, there are many things that causes a nation to be prosperous. And among them, one of them is that show me a nation that exports so many ideas. I will show you a nation that's very prosperous. That's why the United States is one of the richest countries in the world. Why? They export so many things out there. So many things. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, iPhone, different laptops. They export. The more a nation exports, the more a nation is prosperous. Africa is where it is today because we consume more than exporting. And we don't export what is refined. The best we do to export is what is raw. And what is raw is not valuable enough to make so much money. That's why they take cocoa from Africa, convert to chocolate, and sell it to us more expensive. You see, that's the challenge we are facing. So when we have more people that can leverage on the perspective of thought leadership, creative thinking, critical thinking, transformational thinking, all of these concepts, and practically put them to use, we will have more thriving companies. Thinking is such a hard job for many people. To sit and think things through, many people don't like it, right? And that's why, religion is so powerful across Africa, because religion tells so many lies. There's a difference between religion and spirituality, right? So, and many people like things very fast. Many people don't like the idea of, thinking things through and getting their hands dirty and converting what they have spent time to think through into value, into systems that can, create some significant impact and transform the lives of other people. Are you willing to unlearn, relearn, and keep on learning? The more we do that, the more you will see that we have more successful businesses. We have better schools. We have better, non-profit organizations. We have better government. There are many governments across Africa that they don't think things through. When you look at many ministries across different countries, you're like, what are these guys really thinking? You begin to question who are the brains behind these ministries, right? Because when you look at what they're doing and where the world is in 2025, some ministries, either education, finance, trade, technology, science, across different African countries, they're like 30 years backward in the way they run things in those ministries. Sometimes the challenge is the people heading those ministries, they don't pay the price to sit and think through and begin to put things into perspective. But here's the good news. Here's the good news. A generation is rising consistently, and they're taking over critical, offices across Africa. That's why I strongly believe that Africa is about to experience a major breakout, because young people, or the generation that is between the age of 30 and 45, many of them are currently ascending into key leadership positions, both in the private sector and the public sector. And many of these people are massive, amazing thinkers. Are some of them corrupt like their elders? True. But there are some that they understand that what they went through was as a result of bad leadership, bad thinking, or bad ways of doing things. And I choose purpose over greed. I choose vision over embezzlement. I choose transformation over personal, egoistic leadership. So I believe that there is a major shift coming to Africa, almost in every country. Let's get set for it and be part of it.
If it's happening in Africa, it will take center stage on Radio 54. Catch us every Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central African Time. Watch out for the repeat shows every weekend. The African Panorama, unobstructed view of our land so rich in diversity.
Wangipinda futhi lobo awandiyomthola nini umakonda na mina wokuye wangipinda futhi lobo awandiyomthola nini umakonda na mina sebemthathile nalo bese ngithembele kuye andiyomthola nini umakonda uphinde wangishiya nalo bese ngithembele kuye andiyomthola nini umakonda wongiyomthola nini wami mina umakonda wongiyomthola nini wongiyomthola nini wami mina umakonda wongiyomthola nini ngabe batholakalaphi abakwazi ukubekezela ngabe batholakalaphi abanothando lweqiniso ngoba bangakithi sebethathwe wonke ngoba bangakithi sebethathwe wonke ngoba bangakithi sebethathwe wonke ngoba bangakithi sebethathwe wonke ongisizene ningifunise umuntu
Radio 54. African Passport Show. I am Ambassador Godfrey Madanhire here on the African Passport on Radio 54 African Panorama, and I am seated around the fire with Dr. Joybert from Cameroon. You spoke about the USA. They export a lot coming into Africa, and there's no doubt about it. China exports a lot coming into Africa and many other continents, and that is why they are where they are. Africa exports raw materials. Africa exports talent to other continents.
Yeah.
I know you are now in the USA. I'm hopeful that you are not contemplating moving permanently to the USA, because that is the problem that we have as a continent. We
Yeah.
suffer brain drain. How can we either keep our African talent or attract them to come back home?
You see, many Africans love Africa so much. Like my work causes me to travel a lot across different continents. And I met so many Cameroonians and Nigerians and South Africans and Kenyans, what have you, different continents and different countries. And there's always passion for Africa, always passion for Africa. But when they talk about this passion, Ambassador, you always hear a Bert, our people, our leaders, the environment. You always say there's the passion to go back, the passion to do more for the continent, the passion to partner with those back home to do a lot more. But there's always a but at the end of that conversation, which goes back to the political leadership of these countries. So sometimes when somebody looks at the Herculean task of trying to change a whole country, they're like, you know what? Let me first of all fend for my family first before anything else. So they move. And you cannot blame them because it's so challenging and so difficult. And sometimes you are like, okay, if I stay in Africa to look for a job, but where are the jobs? You see, there are many young people looking for jobs in Africa when there are no jobs. It's different when you're looking for a job in a country where there are so many jobs that you can get a job. Or you're like, you know what? Let me stay and build a business. But when you try to build a business, corruption beats you down. Embezzlement fights you from the left. You see, tax collectors are fighting you on the right. Crisis out of nowhere. You see, I have lost, like, I can tell you firsthand the experience of crisis. I have lost my business premises on two different occasions in two different cities because of crisis. Lost heavy amounts of money because of crisis. Been on the floor a few times with flying bullets on my head. You see, another time, I left the town at 2 a.m. because I got a notification that I should leave the house immediately because they were coming to kidnap me, right? I could give you stories on that. So sometimes we see people leaving the continent. It is not because they want to. It is the pain, the challenges, and the environment. But again, the good news is when you meet many of these people, there is still that genuine passion and heart for Africa. There's still that wish that if things that I've met many people, many friends are like, you see, there are some things that if they change today, I'm paying my flight back home tomorrow. I'm not thinking twice. There are so many there are so many unhappy Africans across different continents. So many of them. I've met so many of them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jeff Nyoy. You have written several books such as 35 Days of Redefining You for Success, From Average to Remarkable. That is why you are called Mr. Remarkable. Business Lessons from Drug Cartels. From Chief Procrastination Officer to Chief Executive Officer, etc. What is your usual focus as an author?
My focus, if you read my books, I always fondly say that I am not a writer. I just communicate strategies, right? Because my books are how-to books. This is how to do this, because my focus is how do I help people get things done. So, for example, when you look like 35 Days of Redefining You for Success, that the idea of that book came when I was speaking in Accra, Ghana, and a mother came and said, you know, the things you were teaching, I wish I had those things when I was your age. But I was happy that I was in this meeting with my daughter, right? And she now asked a question. That time I did not start writing books yet. She was like, do you have a book that you have documented some of these ideas? And I said, no. And that's what made me to write 35 Days of Redefining You for Success, with a concept that, because it is one thing to desire success, it is another thing to become the person that can achieve the goals. Many people desire goals, but they have not become the person that can achieve the goal. For example, Ambassador, you are an excellent broadcaster, right? You ask excellent questions, but it's one thing to have the desire to be a broadcaster. It is another thing to become the person that can be a great broadcaster. right? That's the purpose of that book. Same for from average to from average to remarkable. There are people end up in living average lives. So what can they do in the next 3 months in order to move from being average to being remarkable people in their destinies on what they're called to do? So the purpose of every book is, my mind is always, if you sit down with this book and do your best to read through, every day you read a chapter or a page, you will live with steps, you will live with action items on what to do. For example, the book on how to go from being a chief procrastination officer to a chief execution officer, right? There are so many people that their destinies are stagnated because of procrastination. And until you move to being somebody who can get things done, being an executor, you will struggle to succeed at a higher level. So when you get that book, every page that you read, the goal will be you will begin to pick out lessons that can help you to move from being a procrastinator to being somebody who executes and get things done.
Talking about authors, Africa recently lost a rich library in Babangu Giwathiong, who died on the 28th of May 2025 at the age of 87. My condolences to his family. I'm friends with his son and his daughter. He is the author of books like The River Between, Weep Not Child, Decolonizing the Mind, A Grain of Wheat, and many more. Of course, my favorite being Matigari. This is not a loss to Kenya only, but the whole of Africa.
Absolutely.
Your tribute to Baba Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
Yeah, I mean, he was an incredible, writer, especially his book on decolonizing the mind, and a powerful book really communicating as far as, our culture is concerned, and communicates some very powerful perspective. And I'm always happy that people like him existed and lived in order to make sure that they communicate these kind of ideas in a way that, as long as history is advancing and civilization is taking over, we can still read how things used to be and how things should be from the African perspective, and of course enjoy that kind of quality, writings and of course history. So it's definitely a great loss. But again, the blessing is that he gave out his heart and communicated his thoughts, his ideas, and as we said earlier on, the world is most of the time ruled by dead people, right? Because their powerful ideas continue to contribute to the advancement of civilization. And we thank God that he lived and he contributed to Mother Africa with what God gave him to use.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jovnyoy. Before I let you go, I know you've received numerous awards. Which 3 awards stand out for you?
I've never thought about that. And truthfully, I don't think I have an answer to that. And I always fondly say that when I started my journey almost 15 years ago in a small little town in the northwest region of Cameroon known as Kumbo, my goal was just at the time to provide training for younger people, because at the time, research proved that for my town, only 8% of high school graduates end up going to the university, right? And my idea was, how can I create an environment where I can help these high school leavers to gain skills that can help them get jobs? It could be office management, sales, and things like that. So that was all my dream. Truthfully, I did not know I would travel the world as I do today. I did not know I would be on, media platforms like BBC, Voice of America. I mean, here right now. I did not know I would win awards from different continents. I had no idea of things like that. I was just trying to solve a problem I saw, and I was experiencing also, because when I left high school, I could not go to university immediately because my single mom could not afford university at the time, right? So I set out to solve a problem, and as God would have it, it led to something bigger and bigger than what I ever envisioned. If you ask me then that what is your vision, trust me, it will have nothing to do with going to nations, going to going to whatever, zero idea. So these are words, and I've trained myself not to be moved by them, because I know the power of not being able to tame your appetite for influence and power. So I have not paid attention to that. My drive is always high level contribution and value anywhere I find myself, to other people. And the awards are just a consequence. They are just an extra benefit, but they don't define the work that we do. We appreciate them. We thank God for them. But our mission is our greatest award. The more one additional young person from Africa becomes better in terms of building a business or being a better employee in the workplace, that is a major win for us. We always focus on that. The more we're able to close more partnerships between African leaders and African businesses, that is a big win for us as a people and as an institution. So I totally have no idea on which one to mention, but again, we appreciate them. And every day our drive is, how do we serve Africa better, bigger, and contribute to the full destiny manifestation of many Africans as much as possible.
Dr. Joybert Javnyoy, you just demonstrated humility. I thought I've given you an opportunity to shine. But as usual, it is people like you who have achieved so much that do not see a reason to stand on top of the mountain and scream their names. Before I let you go, your final words to Africa. Africa is listening. Africa has been listening. And I can tell you now, Africa is richer because of your input. Final words.
My final words will be, number one, let's believe in Africa. No one is coming to build Africa for us. Anybody who comes who is not African may push the idea they're trying to help. But in any conversation, there is what is being said, and there is really what is happening behind the scenes. So Africa can only be built by Africans, especially when Africans truly begin to rise and say that, we believe in this continent. We will not only desire to go to other continents, because I always ask the question, you are going there, who developed those nations for you to come there? Right? There's nothing wrong going there, but how can we do better for Africa? And that starts by having hope and belief for Africa. Number two, make a resolve. Make a resolve. The resolve could be that, what can I do today to leave a better Africa to my children than the one I inherited from my parents? Make a better resolve in your little corner, wherever you are. What can you do at this moment, in the next 5 years, 10 years? What can you do with what you have, with what you know, with the people that you have access to? What can you do to leave a better Africa to the next generation than the one you inherited from the previous generation? And lastly, I always fondly say, to go to the next level, acquire the skills and the knowledge that the next level requires. Africa will not advance through wishing and praying alone. The Bible says that through wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. That is what Africa needs. We need more skills, more wisdom to build, and more understanding to establish. And we can only achieve that if we pay the price to acquire these skills, this knowledge, and of course to deploy them, not with the mindset of doing well so others can see that you have made it, not with the mindset that I want to post on social media and get likes and comments and let people see that I am also doing well in life. That's for babies. Begin to build, begin to achieve with the mindset of a contributor, with the mindset of a builder, with the mindset of a transformer. When we begin to play this kind of game, Africa will become the true continent it is supposed to be. And in all you do, don't be the one pulling down your own brother. Don't be the one pulling down your own sister, because that is one major challenge across the African continent. We are so good at fighting ourselves. And this terrible mindset has skyrocketed to government level. The most difficult continent to travel within is Africa. The most expensive continent to travel within is Africa. The most painful experience we experience traveling is within Africa. What Africans go through because of Africans is crazy. We need to begin to shift that perspective and become people that we can push each other to advance despite where we come from. But because we are Africans, we have become one because of Mother Africa. Thank you, Ambassador. It was so good being here with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Javnyoy, and thank you for calling us out for that pull-down syndrome, the cancel culture. I hope Africa was listening. There you have it, Africa. Allow me to say thank you to Dr. Joybert Javnyoy for sharing his thoughts on business strategy, productivity, and leadership. His expertise continues to empower entrepreneurs and executives worldwide, and Africa is proud. He is a think tank, and we know thoughts become things. Stay tuned for more enlightening conversations here on Radio 54 African Panorama. Until next time, keep striving for excellence. I am your proud son of Africa, Ambassador Godfrey Madanhire. Sarai Zwakanaka, Sande Sana, Vaya Danki.